many of us, the first step towards learning something that is actually going to change our lives, at least professionally, because this is it. It has happened. Whether we were skeptical about it or not, we have a regulation which will be officially adopted and published in the next few months, but it's already there, and we can read it.
So you have to provide contact details for your data protection officer. I think that would be unwelcome for some organisations. You have to state the legal basis for your processing. And as Eduardo mentioned, if your legal basis is legitimate interests, you have to explain what the interests are which you're relying on. You have to explain if you are transferring data outside the EEA. If you are, what's the legal basis for that? So are you relying on consent, standard contractual clauses, or another derogation? You have to explain to the individual how they can obtain more information about that, so they know what safeguards are in place. You have to explain the retention periods. And if you can't do that, you have to say how you are going to determine them. You have to explain the rights that the individual has, their right of complaint to a data protection officer, and finally, if you have obtained the information indirectly, you have to explain the source of the data as well. And remember that you have to do all this clearly, concisely, in sort of plain English. So there's a lot to get through.
At the moment, we all know this, the law is twisted, the law is national, subject to all sorts of interpretations. And if there was one thing that the Commission wanted to achieve was one set of rules for everybody exactly the same. And if there is one thing you learn in the next couple of days is that this whole process of changing the legal framework is driven by this #1 priority, having this single set of rules.
This is going to pose a challenge to everybody. Just the sheer volume of information that has to be shared with individuals is going to be difficult for everyone.
Those of us who have been working across the ocean, the key thing to explain, if there is one concept you can explain across the ocean and get it right, and then it will save you a lot of trouble, is the fact that personal data, of course, goes beyond this idea of PII, personal identifiable information. And when you look at the recitals of the regulation, the recitals try to make it really, really clear. There is no room for hesitation. Is an IP address personal data? Is cookie data personal data? No worries. It is personal data.
So to recap, whenever you are engaging with individuals, whether it's providing information, responding to access requests, or responding to objections, you have to be clear, prompt, careful, and you have to do it for free.